Welcome to Trading the Close on this Wednesday. I'm Toni Valliere with Verified Investing. Here's what's making headlines today. Fake news, that's what. A false headline stating that the SEC had approved the launch of the spot Bitcoin ETFs was posted on the SEC's account on X. SEC Chair Gary Gensler said the unauthorized tweet was not made by the SEC or its staff. The potential ETF approval, by the way, is still pending. Amazon will lay off several hundred employees in its streaming service Prime Video and Amazon MGM Studios. Hewlett-Packard Enterprises agrees to buy Juniper Networks for $14 billion. And at this hour, the markets are up just before the closing bell. I have two amazing guests today. To my left is Chief Market Strategist Gareth Soloway, and to my right is Verified Investing Trader Paul Sampson, and our crypto guru as well. Lots to talk about, and thank you both for being here. Let's start with you, Gareth. You mentioned this morning on the game plan that the market has been relatively quiet this week, but tomorrow could be a pivotal day with CPI data coming out. So how much of an impact do you think that will have on the markets?
Yeah, so the CPI data, you definitely made the markets quiet because a lot of the traders here and the investors are just sitting on the sidelines until we get that information. And again, when you get this CPI data, it's going to basically reshape the potential for Fed rate cuts this year. How many is the market expecting? You'll see the dollar move, the 10-year yield move, and it really will create some volatility, or at least it should create some volatility tomorrow. So just taking a look real quick, we can see the S&P 500 up about just a couple points on the day, nothing too crazy here, or the spiders are up about $2, which is about 20 points on the S&P. And again, we're right back into kind of those previous 52-week highs right here. And again, you can see this week has been up, up, up. Gentle, light volume, which usually favors the upside on the S&P. And just flipping over to the NASDAQ 100, same thing. Today again, and really all week, it's been led by NVIDIA. NVIDIA's been a monster. We've seen Meta today having a monstrous day too. The only interesting thing, and I'll just talk quickly about one thing with the charts on the NASDAQ 100 here. If we zoom in, there's a gap fill right here. And we did actually just fill that earlier today. And so far, the market has pulled back off of it. Again, I think everything will change tomorrow potentially on that CPI data, but it does make it so it does create some volatility tomorrow, and that's coinciding right with this potential approval of the Bitcoin ETF.
Yeah, and I know that if that happens, of course, we will let you know live on this show. Amazon and GoodRx were just a few of the big market movers today. Which ones have you been following specifically?
Yeah, so Amazon, you're right. You know, I think they announced potentially some layoffs. And again, the stock actually is rallying on that. My guess is there's two sides to this. One is the layoffs as cost savings. So maybe it adds to the bottom line. Who knows? Maybe they're getting more robotic using AI, and it could actually help their profitability. The other side of it too is if we look at Amazon here, we could see that it's had a big move up, and part of that is just the market sentiment. Last week when we were doing this show, you know, people were getting a little nervous. It was like 5-6 down days in a row to start the year. We hadn't had that in years. But now it's like done a 180. It's incredible. Everyone's back to this bullish sentiment. Nothing can go wrong. Everything's perfect. And it's kind of this bipolar market. It just kind of flips one way or the other. And this has pushed us up. So even if Amazon didn't have that news, chances are we'd be up anyways.
Okay. All right. I know there's something else that people have been talking about today. I'm just kidding. I'm being a smart aleck here. Let's get to Paul Sampson now. Let's start with the impact that the fake news earlier today has had on Bitcoin. Last night, actually, it was yesterday, right, that it came out?
Yeah, it was very interesting. We've been pushing up in Bitcoin, up into a pretty major target and area of resistance for, which is similar to back in 2017 or 19, I believe it is, and which to me has been like a really interesting target as we come into it. And I guess I'll zoom out here and kind of touch on that. And it's the overall gold pocket from the all-time high into the low from 2021, that 69K top, and into the $15,000 low. So there's the golden ratio, that 0.618, and into the 0.65, which comes in right about 48,000. It depends on which exchange you're looking at, of course, but comes in like a little bit over 48K, up to 50. And we essentially front ran that a little bit. And one of the things that I've been looking at personally is that everybody likes to refer back to the previous cycle on Bitcoin. And what we saw in the past was that you had this huge rally up into the gold pocket from 3K to 14K, and then you had this huge sell-off. which for me, I do think that our rally is probably coming to an end. But one of the two things that I was looking for, and I still kind of am here, is that either we're going to front run this gold pocket, right? So everybody's looking to either sell out or take a short there, or we're going to blow right through it. And there's one last target for me, which comes in pretty significantly right there, about 52K. And everybody's really eyeballing like 50, 51. Like I said, more so because of this gold pocket coming in right there. But I'm really looking at potentially that we possibly topped for Bitcoin here for like maybe the next few months here.
Do you think we could wick up to 52? Like,
yeah, I do. Yeah. So like, depending on the next few weeks here, it's going to be very interesting because we've also got a little shift going on, if we haven't noticed that, like from the Bitcoin news yesterday, you had this huge wick up and then you got a really big drawdown. A lot of the alts took a little hit, but then Ethereum did not. So Ethereum's starting to push up. And of the two,
why do you think that is?
It's just one of those things where like the Bitcoin, the Bitcoin will end up rallying a substantial amount at first, and then what happens is people start taking profits and transitioning into the altcoins, and then you get these altcoin seasons. ETH has pulled up quite a bit. It's not like it didn't do anything. I think it went up 100% last year, but Ethereum for Bitcoin though went up 200%.
Solana, what, 800?
Oh yeah,
I mean, it's been ridiculous. Some of the other altcoins. Do you think that the Ethereum move, like there's an ETF that's been filed for that? So are people potentially maybe saying, all right, if we get the spot ETF here, let's turn our attention and buy Ethereum in hopes that we get the same sort of run?
We were talking about that earlier, and you're already seeing that being I'm so tired of hearing an ETF. I'm sure most people are as well, but if this one gets approved today, it's like, okay, it's old news. What's next? The Ethereum ETF is going to be one which in the last cycle of crypto and everything was really rallying. Ethereum had a merger or something. I can't even think of what it was, but Ethereum had something going on that was like this huge event, as well as the Bitcoin halving. So the halving for Bitcoin is the next thing, and then the Ethereum ETF for sure. And I'll just go ahead and take a look at Ethereum really quickly here. And for that, we're coming into some pretty interesting areas here as well. So I've got a couple of key areas like marked out here, and for this week at least. So for one, I guess on the last show I was on here, let me see if I can make sure you can see this properly. The two box areas here were my main areas. If you were looking for a new long, that was where I was looking for. We had this initial drop right here. We front ran that box just a little bit. What that really came down to was when we're looking at things in the sense of volume, if you go to our last quarter, Q4 of 2023, that was our point of control, which since that quarter has closed, this is a naked point of control, so it's a major volume target. You can see that that's exactly where we came down to and got the bounce. So from there, you've got two key levels for this week, which were our weekly open, and then today's daily open, actually. And those were essentially where you can see the stair steps have taken place here. Right, so we've gotten a nice pullback to the weekly open. I believe that was on Monday. Our daily open obviously has played a key role here. And then I've been looking for the previous week high, which was essentially last year's high. So last year's high is essentially getting claimed right now. Bitcoin actually is pulling back as we speak. You got almost a 12% rally on Ethereum. The next target for me that I'm looking to is going to be $2,600. And I honestly think that we're going to see a $3,200 ETH in the next few weeks, potentially in Q1 here. So that's kind of where I'm looking at for ETH.
Okay. So photos of Bitcoin ETFs from ARK and Van Eck were listed on Fidelity's trading platform. That has been flooding social media feeds right now. So how significant is that in this likely getting approved?
In my opinion, I think it's approved. It's funny that we both kind of go on. I didn't even know you had the same inkling, but it reminds me of 2017 CME futures listing. It came in right at the high of the market. It was the end of the bull market, but Bitcoin was rallying into 20K. I myself was excited, thinking that, oh, sweet, everybody's talking about the CME futures and all these institutions and the trillions of dollars is just going to pile in because they haven't had the chance. The boys did not pile in at 20K. They brought the boat back to 3K. So for me, I think that this is, it's great. It's a new financial instrument that's going to be offered to everybody. But coming in at the levels that we're coming into, when everybody and their mother is trying to get long right now, I know every single person I know or I've seen at 40K, at 45K, they're trying to get long. Like we're up 200% for the year. It's not going to bode well for the average person. So altcoins, on the other hand, I think that we'll see some impulse, as we're seeing this right now.
and just to throw in something in addition, I also think people have to think logically, like, all right, so you're getting these ETFs approved and these bigger players are going to be getting in and their clients can now get in. Are they really going to let them get in at these levels, or are they going to do their best to flush Bitcoin down so that their top clients can get in at much better prices? It seems a little crazy to think that they're going to want their top clients to be buying higher than you and me and everyone else, right?
Right. Exactly.
Well, let's go back to that too. So once the real news comes out, and I know there's different things that could happen. It could be rejected, it could be delayed, or it's approved. What do you think is the initial reaction? And if it does get flushed out, how low are you thinking it could?
Yeah, that's
go.
really interesting, right? Because yesterday,
That's a loaded question.
Right? So number one, yesterday after we finished trading the close, it was like I literally walked out into the trading floor and we saw this crazy move up and then this reversal, and it was like, and right away it was like, oh, it's approved, and I was like, okay, it was a sell the news event, right? It popped and then reversed, but then you find out it's fake news, right? And so you don't know for sure if that's the real reaction. That's still what I was going in thinking we would get, is like a move up and then a reversal.
Yeah.
But it is, you don't know for sure, and again, we'll have to see how it goes. But I do think that, again, just being disciplined, you're not buying at 45 or 46 or 48,000, even if it goes up to 52, like you said, and I do think that's a possibility. It's still, you want to wait for that pullback. You'll get it at some point, whether it's a market sell where it's risk off just because it's the whole market, or whether it's a rotation into Ethereum or something else. At some point, we probably come down. I have a $38,000 level and a $30,000 level. I don't know if any of your levels match up with that.
Yeah, so for me,
Are you thinking lower, possibly?
over time.
Over time, okay.
It's a little too hard. Like, you don't want to get ahead of yourself. You don't want to get caught holding out for like extremely crazy targets. But 31K, I think, is definitely something that is on the table over the coming months if things start to really come down. And then once again, it's one of those things where you have to manage it as you go, because obviously things could change and you could just blow right through 52 and then onward upward. I just personally, I don't see that happening. I think the technicals, even in the stock market, everything's so overheated at this point. A pullback, maybe just 6 months. We've had a whole, one, and generally you'll see the timing, right? We had 2022, completely down year, 2023, completely up year, go back to 2021, a completely up year. More than likely, we're going to see at least 6 months of downside this year, potentially more. So for me, I'm looking at 31, and then possibly we still have the CME gap back at 20K, to think of. And once again, those are things that, like, as time passes and we kind of see, we'll see how things kind of unroll. But
just to jump in real quick, Ethereum, you must have moved the markets, bro, because Ethereum's surging up right through 2,500 here on the 10-minute chart. We just went up about 20, 30 bucks just in the last little bit. And then interesting to just watch live here on Bitcoin as we await this potential ETF is look at all this chop, right? So this is, you can tell people are starting to expect something on the 10-minute because you're getting these wide ranges of $1,000 moves every 10 minutes or so. So people are on the edge of their seat. They know it's coming. It's just a matter of at what time today.
Exactly. And I'd love to ask both of you pros and cons of this, but not everybody's for it.
Right. I mean, I think that's true. Is like you have to recognize that now you're going to have a lot of bigger money in the space. It opens the door to a lot more investors. It's not such a niche product at this point. But again, that comes with, I think the more money that gets involved, the more stable an asset it becomes. Just like Apple, right? Apple doesn't move 10% in a day anymore. It moves 2%, 1%, sometimes not. So I think that's a positive. But I think the other side is, do the institutions manipulate it now because they have so much money and the market cap? I mean, remember, the market cap is big on Bitcoin, but it's still like 1/5 of Apple. Right, so it's still minor, and these BlackRock has trillions of dollars at their disposal. So I think that's the negative, is that you hope there isn't manipulation, but I think that is a possibility.
Okay, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that we get into going back to when I first got into crypto, it was 2017, and the market, that was probably the greatest. I mean, maybe the 2013 version was better, but like that was the best bull run we've ever seen as far as altcoins. You had 100x a month on top coins like that we see now. XRP, things like Litecoin, like these things like blew up over the short period of time, but the entire market together was only $800 billion. So to see these new levels and to get to these places over time, more money's got to come in, and if it's just people off the street, obviously we have to open the doors to the institutions and more of those regulations that come in. I know that everybody thinks that that's going against what Bitcoin stands for, but at the end of the day, it's needed at the end.
So we get through this, whatever happens. The next big event is the halving. What kind of impact could that have? What does that mean to investors, halving?
So, right now there's I think it's 900 Bitcoin hit the market a day, give or take, but from the miners at the moment. So every 10 minutes, X amount, it's like, I think it's 12.5. or 6.25, sorry. So 6.25 Bitcoin are hitting the market from the miners every single 10 minutes, equating to whatever. In April, that'll switch to 3.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes. So it's instantly going to cut, the demand in half. The supply. The demand has constantly been going up the last few months, and with the ETFs and with more people coming into the market, it's expected generally that we get an impulse in the price action, and we have seen that time and time again. So I do expect that will occur still. But leading into it, we might get the pullback, right? So like we've seen nothing but upside over the last few months, especially since Q4. Like the last quarter, it's been nothing but upside across at least, I'm pretty sure, even the stock market. But crypto and alts, like you said, like Solana, 200 or 300x just in the last few months. I mean, you've seen a ton of things just explode, including Bitcoin. They get rallied 100% almost in the one quarter. So a pullback into that, and then I still think that we'll see higher prices over time, and that halving is going to be the initiator if you had to have a catalyst behind it.
You're calling it approved. You think this is likely? Same here.
I am too. I mean, I think all of us, including the media out there, would be very shocked if for some reason it got delayed or not approved. So I think it will be, and I think price has reflected that with the run that we've seen in Bitcoin. So now it's a wait and see. Let's see if we get another a real tweet, or is it another fake out?
It doesn't have to be announced today, though, does it?
I was under the impression, and you might know better than me, but I thought today was the deadline.
They have to
tell us
so they have to say either they're going to reject it, delay it, or approve it. And word on the street, and I don't know how credible it is, but they're looking to wait till after 6 p.m. So that's when CME closes, everything's closed, and you're talking about everybody walking into tomorrow now with bated breath, waiting for the ETF decision and CPI. So it's like,
and that's what the rumor is too, is that the ETFs are supposed to start trading tomorrow. I don't know if that's true, but that's what the rumors are.
Be careful on the roads, because there'll be people driving like this.
Yeah,
a lot
true.
more tonight, that's for sure. Thank you both. This was awesome. Very good insight. And you can catch Gareth navigate the charts ahead of the opening bell on his show, The Game Plan. It airs at 9 a.m. every day right here on the Verified Investing YouTube channel. And then you can watch Paul and Ben Poole discuss the dynamic worlds of crypto and the stock markets on their show, The Bottom Line. That airs every Friday at 4 p.m. That does it for Trading the Close on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you have a great rest of the day.